Good morning, everybody. It's Ben Jones here with Badger from Bronson Coffee Roasters. It is Monday morning, the 14th day in June 2021. I am just back from vacation, so that's why you didn't see me last week. Today, I want to talk about, we're going to kind of launch a little bit of some chit-chats about some of the terminology that is commonplace in cafes and in the coffee world. And the first thing that I want to talk about is, what is strong coffee? If you come into one of our cafes, whether you're looking for a cup of drip brewed or some beans to take home, we love to talk about what you might want in your coffee. I will say, if you're getting a brewed coffee, we'll have typically 3 or 4 choices brewed up. And one of the common, we'll say, what type of coffee do you want? The common answer is, it's like your strongest cup of coffee. Now, this is a really tricky thing when it comes to the actual terminology that we're using. So in my world, when someone says strong coffee, that means something a little bit different from the way a lot of people use it. So if you are a coffee professional and someone says strong coffee, here's what goes through my head. All right, so the coffee bean, all roasted up and delicious, it has a ton of flavors inside there. We take that and we grind that down into a nice little powder, and we add to that some water. And this is going to give us a little mug of delicious, tasty coffee. You can take any coffee and you can make it strong or you can make it weak. The strength depends on how much of this are we using in relationship to that. The more of this we use, the more bean we use, the more bean we're going to have in our cup. Because when we're brewing, what we're actually doing is, if we look at that little tiny coffee particle, here's a coffee particle, I'll just draw a little picture of it, and we'll put some flavors on it. On those little dots are the flavors. When we add the water to it, the water begins to dissolve all the little water soluble bits, and then it washes off any little actual kind of fibrous bits of the coffee that are the result of that bean being fractured. So what you end up with is a drop of water that is actually full of our coffee flavoring agents. I should get a whiteboard, that'd be pretty fun. When we have enough of these, so let's just say we're gonna have this times 10 to the 30th, let's call it 88th. So we're gonna have a whole bunch of water, and that's gonna give us, when we collect all those little droplets of water, this is gonna give us that tasty mug of coffee. And when you want a strong cup of coffee, you want to have a mug that has more of the dissolved particles. And you might hear, if you're hanging out with coffee nerds, you might hear us talk about things like TDS. I'm writing this backwards because we're mirrored on the video, so it's a little awkward. That's all it is. So TDS, total dissolved solids. How many little tiny bits of coffee solids, soluble material, little tiny chunks of the actual insoluble bean, how much of our beverage is made of total dissolved solids? Typically, in our average mug, we want to have a TDS for most Americans. We want to have 1.1, so we can do a 5 back here, 1.15% is considered our weak range. And then on the strong side, 1.35-ish is kind of our medium range. And then if someone's really hardcore, they will have about 1.5%. This is a really strong cup of coffee. This is coffee that's just barely flavored of coffee. It's incredible to me the very slight difference in how much dissolved solids we get, but it makes such a huge, huge impact. This tells us that if this is total dissolved coffee flavoring, then we're going to have about 98.5% water in our mug, and the rest is going to be coffee. So for a strong cup, we're looking for more dissolved solids. We're looking for, that really is equating to more beans being used, more of this in relationship to this. That's why espresso is considered incredibly strong, because you're using the same amount of coffee bean that we would for a standard mug. We're using that much, but only putting through a small fraction of water, about 20% of the water that we would normally use to brew for a mug. So when someone asks for strong coffee, at our counters, we'll translate that into high caffeine content, something you can add milk to where it's not going to lose the coffee flavor. So if you're looking for, for more caffeine, you're going to want to get either more coffee or add some espressos to it. Make it that shot in the dark. Caffeine content itself is incredibly difficult to generalize. Brew method makes a difference. The variety of the bean makes a difference. Roast profile somewhat, we can argue, makes a difference. The biggest thing for me with caffeine content is, how does it affect you? If you, I can drink from my Bee House dripper kind of all day and be kind of okay. Give me a French press, I start to feel it a lot more. Espresso, I don't like to drink a whole bunch of it. Cold brew, an ounce or two and I'm done. I just want to go home for the day, and I just can't drink any more coffee. The brew method makes a difference, and each person responds to it differently. So if you want strong coffee in terms of caffeine content, explore different brew methods. Find something that you feel that caffeine more if you're looking for that. Similarly or alternately, you can add espresso to your drip coffee. You can make your latte or cappuccino into a quad or a 6-shot beverage. That's an easy way to get more caffeine. And generally speaking, your shot of espresso has roughly the same amount of caffeine as a drip coffee, like a standard mug, because we're using essentially the same amount of bean. So we have the same amount of caffeine available to us to extract. So strong coffee, another use of it, like I said, is if someone's adding milk to it, they'll want something that will stand up to the milk flavor. So oftentimes people will equate roast degree with strength. So our Italian roast is our darkest, and that has some very heavy flavors to it. Though when you add milk, you still get that smoky, pungent coffee flavor coming through. So in that sense, yes, that coffee is strong because it will stand up and not be diluted by milk. However, our medium roast, something like our Guatemala El Valle here, a little bit lighter roast, you add milk to it, it's going to hide the flavor more, but that has nothing to do with the strength. So when you're looking for strong coffee, that's a recipe question, not so much Anyway, so that's our little rant on strength. Again, it all has to do with how much water are you using in relationship to the beans you're using. And just a quick side note, you may notice that as I shook my Guatemala, it sounds very different. This is not whole beans. Right now, I don't have a single bit of whole bean roasted coffee in my coffee shop because I was on vacation, and I went ahead and got my coffee pre-ground for the Chemex, because as I was out camping, didn't take my Chemex camping, but I did take my Aeropress, and I really enjoy the Aeropress with some nice coarse coffee. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you want to comment on the way you use strength of coffee, I would love to hear about it. But just so you all are aware, the industry standard strong coffee is a question of recipe, not of caffeine content, not of roast profile. There you have it. I think of it like Kool-Aid. If you take one packet of Kool-Aid, well, I haven't made Kool-Aid in ages. Okay, someone questioned in here, does the Aeropress pull a stronger shot? So Shannon, it's all determined by how much water we put in. If you want a strong shot of coffee from the Aeropress, your ground dose and mash that just a little bit more than double that of water dose, and then push that through. If you then add more water to it, you will be weakening the brew. So that's how that goes. If you want more flavor, you can also play with things like giving longer brew times. But then, of course, as we know, that the longer your time brews, you risk over brewing it. That would be like saying that you're going to make, you know, more flavorful cookies by leaving it in the oven longer. There's a limit. We don't want to go for a full extraction. So let's, on another video, I will talk about extraction yield. Well, let's just talk very briefly about extraction yield, because we're here. All right, so if we have our coffee bean, this is the roasted coffee bean, approximately, how to make a 3 backwards, that's this. Approximately a third of the material in there is soluble with water, meaning if we put water on it, we can pull those things into our cup. However, we only want to pull out, our target is, there we go, we're going to play a game of darts. To hit that bullseye, what we're looking for is approximately 18 to 20% extraction on average. Some coffees we can go up to taking out 23% of the matter and be getting a decent cup of coffee. The longer you steep it, you start to go above this percentage, and that's when we start to get flavors that taste more like a burnt match, or things that are astringent. So we'll talk more in depth about that in another one. So more flavor, Shannon, if you're looking for more flavor, if you're looking for more flavor in terms of adding milk and you want that flavor to stand up, I would look to a blend that has some French or Italian roast, or an Italian roast or French roast coffee. Dancing Goats is a great contender for a flavorful coffee. Brendan, good to see you. Otherwise, you were looking at really the ratio of, you know, how much actual coffee to water are you putting in. So I could talk forever about this. I get really excited about these type of things. I hope you all could hear the rooster in the background and the rain now on the tin roof. So I will see you back on Friday, and we'll talk a little bit. Maybe I'll make this a Monday thing to talk about some things. Maybe Friday we'll do something fun. So anyway, thank you all for joining, and I will see you another day.